Fannie Mae sends out the white ravens. Tina is depressed. And the CPI numbers hit this morning, and everybody's losing their minds. On today's Unnamed Real Estate Podcast. It is amazing how many times one little mosquito can bite you in about an hour-long period. Hi, my name is Charles Ray Dawson. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 89. I am the Associate Broker and Sales Manager of ProStar Realty, and it's a doom and gloom kind of week, so let's get it kicked off. First things first, I have a mosquito flying around my cubicle, my office here, and he has probably got me at least 4 times, including through the shirt. So if you see me suddenly swatting, it's because he's flown into the screen, and I think I can take a shot at him. The other thing I wanted to point out, and just that Ron Keller, lifelong friend of mine, keeps mentioning this color distortion that happens on this recording thing. Ron, I've tried every kind of setting on this thing, and unless I go out there and buy brand new software that corrects for the lighting effects that you'll see on this is just what's going to happen. Just listen. Most people don't pay attention to me when they see me on the screen anyway. So, anyways, news coming up this week. We got 3 major news issues that hit. Two major things this week, and then a comfort report with Tina. And let's just get right into it. First things first. Fannie Mae, one of the big mortgage-backed security institutions. I can't remember the technical term that it was called, but basically Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are the people who buy the loan, large portions of the loan from your lender pretty much as soon as the ink dries on the loan. They then turn around, they buy the loan from the lender. They usually have a second company servicing that loan. They just sit back there, and the idea between Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac is by taking their money, buying that loan from the bank, that allows that bank to turn around and loan money out again. Now, you might remember back during the crash that these guys all took it in the shorts because they were ultimately, at the end of the day, holding a lot of the paper for all the short sales and foreclosures and everything. And we, as the federal government, came in and saved their asses by basically taking those companies over, making sure that the people who had invested in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac did not suffer any loss in the downturn. They were made right by the federal government, and any losses that would happen to you, the taxpayer. That was a little bit of an editorial there, and a little bit of my personal opinion. And if you want more of that opinion, meet me at the bar and buy me a drink, all right? I'll go off on that one for hours. So anyways, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae came out and said that they are expecting an actual house prices to drop in 2023. All right, not this year, because remember, they look at things quarter to quarter and year, and we're still showing an upturn this time now from last year. We are, because remember in 2021, right, our house prices were appreciating 20%, 24%, certain zip codes higher than that year over year. And now they're saying that in 2023, they're expecting to actually see housing start going down. Now, oh my God, is this the crash? No, it's not a crash. It's a correction. Right? But that is what we're seeing. And part of that might be as planned. Right? This might be the design from those people, the shadowy Illuminati folks or whatever. And I keep seeing references to this and to the Fed actually saying that they're trying to stabilize the split between rents and home ownership. And so much that are you paying more to rent than you are to buy? Are you buying, does it cost more to buy than it is to rent? I see reference to these things on the comment sections. Now, ladies and gentlemen, don't read the comments on anything. And that's where madness lies, right? Just read the headlines. But, me, I go into the darkness. In the dark, I look into the darkness, and the darkness looks into me. And so I keep seeing references to the Fed stating we're going to crash the housing market until rents and home ownership is stabilized. But I'm not seeing primary documentation on that. All right. And so I don't know if that's real information or if that's Russian bots just doing this on the internet. And this is why I encourage you, when you see these headlines, and especially when you see stuff in the comments, don't trust, but verify. All right. Don't trust anything you read in the comments. Right. And nowadays, don't trust anything you read anywhere, because you have no idea what the hell they're going to, who's saying what and whether or not they actually know what they're talking about, including this guy right here. All right. You should back up anything I say with your own research, and not in that 6 hours of clicking through Wikipedia articles and next thing you know you're a virologist or anything like that. But just understand that we're in this situation where we don't really know what's going on, and we got a lot of different people's opinions about what's going on. But what we can look at is stuff like today. Tina, part of the things that she was talking about when we met on Monday, and part of what Cromford Report is reporting, is demand is down. And we know demand is down, but more than that, even the houses that go under contract are actually going from contract to close at a slower rate. Now remember, on our chart, there's a reason why I have green. Okay, these are our active listings. All right, and then we have, these are the ones that are pending or under contract in one way, shape, or form. And then at the very end, we have the closings. And I have different colors for that. Not everything that goes pending under contract, all right, is going to wind up closed. All right. Sometimes the appraisal doesn't happen. Sometimes people get cold feet. Sometimes the condition of the house is much worse than it appears on the surface, and things go out in the inspection period, right? And she had this chart up, and which I should have snagged, but it was showing how the actual rate of successful closures are also dropping. So buyers are being a lot more pickier about their houses, and once they do get the house under contract, and once they do get it inspected, they're finding things and finding reasons to pull out of the deal. Some sellers out there, we're seeing buyers over the last week, just here in the house, come up with some pretty ridiculous demands on the Binzer. We had one Binzer that came across, which was literally the entire home inspection. We want everything fixed. And remember, home inspections cover a lot of weird things, okay? They will sit there and literally tell you, in the northwest bedroom, the power plug is turned upside down. Where the grounds are on top and the blades are on the bottom, that kind of stuff, all right? And buyers have been getting really, really squirrely on it because they got the stick now. They got the power in the transaction if they can qualify for a loan and are willing to purchase at these current rates. Let's do this real quick. Let's just bump over into the numbers, and then we'll hit on the back end. So numbers for October 12th, 2022. Actives this week are 20,302, breaking that 20,000 mark that I told you we weren't going to hit, which is why Ray is no longer trying to be a prophet about these things. All right, that was up 395. Our new listings were 2,058, which is actually down 181 from the week before. Pendings this week were 1,096, down 44, with under contracts looking for backups at 630, down 52. And contracts with buyer contingency on the sale is at 91, which is the same number we got last week. Closings last week were 1,178. Coming soon to an MLS near you is 630 new listings, which is still trending down. Demand this week dropped to 80.8 and supply rose to 79.6. So we are almost within a point of each other on that. And I think the Cromford index number is right like it is 101 right now. Remember, we call this a balanced market, right? These two are very close to each other. We have 80.8 people looking at 79 houses. There's enough housing to go around. Theoretically, there's enough buyers to go around, but buyers are indeed being picky. Let's talk about a couple things. Main thing that's driving our growth in active listings right now is the complete loss of demand. These are the properties that are going, under contract, pending, contracts with the buyer's contingency. It's the demand side that's causing this. Our actual active listings and new listings are actually going down. These new listings used to average about 2,500 a week. Now we're down to 2,000 a week. All right. So Tina was pointing out that one of the things that we were looking at on this whole thing is that sellers If you remember about a year ago when interest rates were really, really super low, and I was expressing concern that we might be getting people who are like just locked into that house because, hey, I got a rate that starts with 2. Why do I want to buy a new house and have to finance that house with a rate that starts at 6? Right? That spread means a huge loss of purchasing power. Right, with modern buyers out there. And so we are starting to see the sellers who are selling now have to sell, right? They have a lifestyle change that has happened to them, right? They're getting married, right? They're forming a household. 2 individual households are forming one single household, right? And it's time for them to sell one of the 2 houses that they're living in, or they could rent it out. Call me, I'm here. All right. The other thing that you can do along those lines is divorces. Right? Now you suddenly have household formation. You now have 2 households where there used to be 1 household. One of those spouses is going to have to live somewhere. Right? Don't assume they're just going to move in with their girlfriend or their boyfriend or whatever. Right? So those are the kind of things. Death in the family, and now the kids need to get rid of mom and dad's house. Right? That's so. Or just got transferred to another state. Need to move for work. Now we got to get rid of this place, right? Those are the people who are selling right now. There's not a lot of people out there who are really looking at, oh my God, I just want a cleaner kitchen. All right, let's go buy another house exactly like ours, but in the neighborhood that we want to. Right? That kind of moving is not happening. In fact, there was an article that came out earlier this week about the rise of supercommuters. Right? That more and more people are willing to commute 90 minutes or more a day from their house to work and back again. Right? So at that point, that starts pushing you people out into the exurbs. And to use an example of an exurbs, all right, so you have the inner city, you got suburbia, and then you have the exurbs that are way out there. Think of like Maricopa, not the county, but the city. All right? Think of way out there, Goodyear area. Those would be considered exurbs of Phoenix, right? And as you see from the Cromford report numbers and everything like that, that you see those areas, they're actually declining, right? They're declining faster than anybody else. Meanwhile, the inner core is responding to pricing and everything better. And, Tempe, still up. Tempe's going up, slowly. I mean, we're still talking down numbers here, right? But Tempe, Paradise Valley is still very high. Scottsdale, right? Gilbert, and what else? We got Gilbert kicking in. Queen Creek's down. Chandler is picking up and everything like that. So, we're talking very, very small numbers, but those markets seem to be improving. So, could that be because we're also looking a lot of times where it's somebody who comes in there and goes, hey, I'm working from home, that's fine. And then your bosses suddenly start wanting to show up. A lot of things going on that point. Right? But ultimately, we got to deal with our numbers, and our numbers are being impacted by the interest rates. And what do we have for news on the interest rates? Well, this morning, CPI came in. That's a consumer price index, and the CPI came in higher than anybody expected. All right, everybody had been talking along the lines of, "Oh, we're whipping inflation. We're whipping inflation. We're not going to have any interest rate hikes because we're whipping inflation." And then the CPI numbers come in, and inflation's still here. In fact, they went up before. All right, so we are even more looking at another rate hike coming up. In fact, I saw somebody, not in the comments, even talking about instead of the 0.75, everybody's talking about maybe a full point. What I think about that, I'm not a banker. So I just look at the history. All right. Average mortgage rate for my entire lifetime, because they go back 50 years on this thing, is 7.7. That includes the big run up in the early 80s where they literally ran the interest rates up to try to burn inflation out of the economy. And they ran them up that high. Right? We see a duplication on this side where they're talking, all right, as long as inflation is high, we're going to continue to raise the interest rates to try to lower demand. Right? And by lowering demand, we will cool off the economy and we won't have the inflation that we're having anymore. There's a line of argument that says, and yeah, they were saying this yesterday, but I'd like to talk to them today and say, are you seeing the same thing? That because the Fed is always driving the car by looking in the rear view mirror. That anything that they do today is not going to have any impact till about 3 to 6 months down the road. The changes that they've already have maybe already been in place to correct for inflation, and that they don't need to make any more changes because what we've done is what is going to be enough. Don't know. Let's work with the rates we have today. All right. From a buyer standpoint, if you are a buyer out there and you can afford to buy and find houses at the price point you can make, now is a really, really good time to buy. It's probably the best time to buy since 2014. Actually, it might be the best time to buy since 2012. All right. For the people coming out of, in 2010, 2012, people coming out of the crash and everything like that, where we still had super high supply, but not a lot of demand, great time to get into the market. In fact, and because it was such a great time to get into the market, it might be good to go back and take a look at that. Take a look at those images and every way that market was back then. Give me just a second. I'm doing this one on the fly all of a sudden because great ideas come. Problem is I got half my screen covered up by this, but I wanted to pull that chart in so I can go to that. And then let's see. Hey, that worked, sort of, kind of, except remind me not to save this. I need to undo that after this. All right, so let's take a look at this, all right? They haven't updated this number in a while. All right, but we're looking back at this was July, okay, and we saw demand coming up, and here's the supply side, and we could project out based on the comfort room numbers I told you, is that demand and supply are both, right about in the 80s. All right, so we're right about here, if you can see that. Okay, so we come back. All right, looks an awful lot like what we were doing 2013 and 2014. Last time we were at a balanced market. All right, but let's look back to where we had supply, which is the blue one on this one, seriously above demand. Demand's red on this, all right? Maybe we should start looking at that time period. Okay, what was the market like back then? All right. Now, strangely enough, okay, those rates and everything dropping and stuff like that, this was an easy time to find a house if you had to find a house. But, notice what was going on at the same time is demand was really, really super low. People who bought after the bottom of the market, all right, when it's sitting there bouncing across the bottom like a crankbait, that was that was a really great time to pick in. Are we there yet? Well, I'll tell you one thing. We see more inventory right now than we've seen in pretty much forever. All right, I don't have the chart in front of me, so I can't tell you the last time we saw 20,000 listings out there on the market. All right, but the last time we had 20,000 listings out there on the market was a really, really good time to be a buyer. Let me just do that. Okay, so that's why we use this old term, and this is an old term that's come back, right? And it says you date the rate, but you marry the house, right? An interest rate, a mortgage can be refinanced, right? You remember a couple of years ago, I was sitting there very, very strongly this time last year, all right, and definitely before, saying if you haven't refinanced, you really, really should refinance, right? These are the lowest rates we're going to ever see. I still think those are the lowest rates we're going to ever see. All right, asterisks. Ray's not really good at prophesizing these things, right? Because remember, I thought we weren't going to get above the 4s this year, all right? But those twos were great rates, all right? I don't think we're ever going to go back in the 2s again, which is why we're having a problem with people who might not want to sell their house right now, because why the hell would I want to get out of my 2% rate and go into a 6 or a 7 rate? Right? You might have a lot of people who are like locked into their houses because of that. And that's going to be more of an issue as we go down through the years. I think they'll start having more and more of an impact. Just like there's a certain time period back there in 2014 where part of the reason why we had that balanced market is because it's not that we didn't have demand for housing, but we had people who could not buy because they had just taken a foreclosure or a short sale, and nobody was going to loan them money there for a bit. Right, and then those people started coming back online in 2017 once that had all washed out of their credit scores. So with the with that interest rate, let's say you lock in, worst case scenario, you lock in at 7. Oh my God, you got a 7% interest rate, right? We've seen how those rates come up and down. We also know that 7% interest rate is being driven because Bernanke's, I keep saying Bernanke, and I can't remember, I think it's, what's her name, Young? Anyways, the new Fed chair, right, is cranking up the rates trying to burn off inflation. Well, once inflation gets burned off, now they're going to try to catch that knife, right? Because now that they've literally throttled back the economy, all right, we're going to start having a recession. What's the number one thing they do to try to fix a recession? They turn on the money pump again, right? They lower the interest rates, trying to get more people to borrow money, right? To buy houses, to buy machinery, to start new businesses, to buy cars, to buy whatever, to try to get the economy put back up. It's really sad. They only got that one button, money on, money off, right? And they just hit that back and forth, right? So right now they're in a money off thing, right? There's still an argument out there that says we're not in a recession, and we won't know we were in a recession until 2 years from now, all right? Hopefully after the elections, because then they can come out and say, oh yeah, that whole time period, you thought the world sucked. It actually did suck, but you didn't know the world sucked until we told you to, because we're the experts and you're not. You're just a consumer. All right, pay no attention to your bank account balance or your grocery receipt. We're the experts. You're not. You just live your life. We control it. I'm going to cut that out and use that as a clip later on. All right. So, anyways, long story short, if you're in a position to buy, if you think you might be in a position to buy, if you want to know if you're in a position to buy, it's time to talk to your lender. All right. The reason why we have lenders out there is for these particular reasons. So let me do one last thing. All right. Remember this guy, Jeff? All right. He's an in-house lender, in-house real estate agent, stuff like that. You can email him at jeff@thejeffteam.com or call him at 602-799-8052. Say you saw his number on this podcast so I can have him on later on. Other than that, let's roll up the week. I got a lot of stuff to get done today, and a lot of things going on and a lot of fires to put out. So thank you very much for watching. You know the routine. Watch kids and pets around the water, even though it is starting to cool off. It's not that cool yet. All right, and you might be trying to get those last parties in before winter. No sign of flooding anything, but you know how I feel about people who drive into mud puddles. Don't do it, kids. All right, have a great weekend. Work your circles, and I'll see you guys next week.